Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be checking out my final winter forecast for the winter of 2021 to 2022. We'll be checking out the factors for this upcoming winter like the teleconnections, the ENSO. We'll also check out model guidance and the Cloud Prediction Center's latest forecast. And of course we'll be checking out my own forecast as well. Before we get started this video here, if you guys do like weather related content here, if you're a new viewer, um, if you like weather related content, I do stuff like this here every year. Not only I do long range forecasting, but I also do shorter range forecasting as well, like severe weather, winter weather as well. So if you guys do like stuff like that, I highly recommend to subscribe to my channel. If you guys want to check out more weather related content, if you guys are interested as well with some of my content. Now, if we got out of the way, let's go and get started here with the winter forecast. And usually, the first thing I'll look into when I do uh, winter weather predictions and stuff like that is the sea surface temperatures. These here do put into effect of our overall patterns here. And we do have several boxes here, and these are pretty important here to note for this upcoming winter. Of course, we got the ENSO down there in the Equatorial Pacific there, the bottom, the box on the bottom of your screen there right here. Currently, we're in a weak La Nina, which, it's pretty good for winter for a lot of us, really, for a weak La Nina. But it has been strengthening some time over the last several weeks. Definitely been noticing some strengthening in the La Nina here. So this may become possibly slightly stronger than last winter, which last winter, um, was mainly a weak La Nina. This winter here may actually potentially have to be stronger. Could get closer to the moderate stage of the La Nina as well, since it's been strengthening here as well. If we actually do check the sea surface temperatures about around this time last year, this is my winter forecast for last year. It's the final one. There are some big differences here. One noticeable thing here, the La Nina is actually a little bit stronger last year around this time period. At this point here, this is November the 20th here, and today is November the 18th. It's almost going to be the 19th here, my time. And one big difference here I do see here is when you look into the northern and the eastern Pacific here. And last winter, we did have that big warm blob out there, which created as a ridge, which made things warmer and drier across the western United States and also led to some of that cold air a little bit more into the eastern United States last winter. Well, if we check out around that time now, it's a different story. We actually got a pool of cooler than normal waters here. That's a negative PDO there, and typically with negative PDOs, usually that leads to warmer winters for the eastern United States, typically for a negative PDO, which we'll look at some graphics in just a moment here. But right now we're currently in a negative PDO. If we go a little further east into the western United States, right now we're pretty much in PNA is right around average for right now, but it is expected to go to a positive PNA as well, which will act as a ridge across pretty much most for a good chunk of the western United States. And then when we go up to Alaska, the EPO, which is the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, that is around average as well, and is expected to get to the positive side of things, and typically with a positive EPOs, which will then again check out a graphic in a little bit. Typically, what that means is that a lot of cold air kind of gets stuck up there around the Alaska region, which then again we'll check out them graphics in a little bit. Then we'll go a little further to the northeast. We got the Arctic Oscillation, which is also neutral, and that's actually expected to go negative AO later this week into next week, which is Thanksgiving week. And then the last area is your NAO, which is also neutral, and it's also going to be a negative NAO very soon as well. So a lot of big changes are on the way here. Right now, most of the teleconnections are right around neutral, so the pattern's not very active at this point, but that's expected to change next week as these teleconnections kind of get into their negative and positive phases as well. Another thing I want to note here is, and I don't believe this is an actual teleconnection here, but check out those sea surface temperatures here across parts of the New England states there. Those are some very warm sea surface temperatures there. And what that can act like is a ridge here, a ridge of high pressure there. You also do notice here there is some above normal sea surface temperatures there across parts. I believe that's Hudson Bay, if I am correct. I'm not completely sure about that. But anyways, there with these warmer sea surface temperatures here, that could act as a little ridge over Quebec and Newfoundland, Canada. And that makes the pattern a little bit more interesting here for the eastern United States as well. So that's something we also got to pay attention to as well. This is the change over the last 7 days here, and there's not really been much of the way of changes. However, parts of the La Niña, the equatorial Pacific region, the eastern part of the ENSO region, has been cooling down quite a bit there, which is an indication that this La Niña is slowly strengthening as well. Which typically with a moderate La Niña, it's not necessarily a good thing for a moderate La Niña. What that can happen is that southeast ridge across the southeast can get stronger. If the La Niña itself gets stronger, or in other words here, stronger La Niña, stronger the southeast ridge could be. That's basically what that means there. So if this La Niña continues to strengthen here, we could be talking about possibly a strong southeast ridge. Well, won't necessarily be a good thing for the eastern United States. All right, let's get a little bit more detail with the teleconnections here. So this is your Eastern Pacific Oscillation. This is up around the Alaskan region. And this is your positive EPO phase. This is what we're actually leaning towards this upcoming winter here. And this is what happens here. All that cold air gets stuck up around parts of Alaska and Canada. Meanwhile, for a good chunk of the United States, it's warm. Now, not every positive EPO is the same way. Keep in mind that there's also other teleconnections out there as well that could be the opposite of this, which again, we'll check out the other teleconnections in just a moment there. But that's what the EPO is really leaning towards this upcoming winter, is a positive EPO type of pattern here, which then again, that decreases the chances for colder normal conditions for pretty much for the central and eastern United States, but it does increase the odds for colder than normal conditions for the western United States as well. You can see there on this graphic here, it's closer to normal for the western United States with a positive EPO pattern. Now, last winter, we had a negative EPO last winter. What happened there is that we had a ridge over Alaska, and that pushed all the cold air further to the southeast, more focused across parts of southern Canada and a good chunk in the United States. And then again, that's what we saw last winter. And then again, we're leaning towards a positive EPO phase. All right, the next teleconnection will be the PDO, your Pacific dial oscillation. I cannot really pronounce that correctly. Apologies for my pronunciation if it's bad. But anyways, currently we're in a negative PDO here. And this is what a negative PDO normally looks like. So you got this blob here of warmer than normal conditions here. And you got this area here of below average temperatures across really along the west coast region, which right now we're not really seeing those below average sea surface temperatures along the west coast right now. But then again, like I said earlier, these teleconnections here, they're not exactly the same here every time. But anyways here, typically with a positive PDO, which this is what we saw a little bit closer to last winter. Honestly, I think the PDO was actually closer to neutral last winter. Maybe slightly positive, but it's really completely the opposite here. You got a very warm sea surface temperatures pretty much along the west coastline, and that kind of acts as a ridge across those areas as well. So, and for this upcoming winter here, we're leaning towards a negative PDO. So that's two teleconnections for winter lovers for the eastern United States. It's not a good sign already. You got two teleconnections that is currently working a little bit against you for right now. The next area is the Arctic Oscillation, and we are currently leaning towards a negative Arctic Oscillation. And what typically happens here is that with a negative phase here, the jet stream itself here, it's not really as strong. Or the high pressure system up there that kind of helps hold that cold air in place around the Arctic circle, typically when it's in a negative phase here, it's much weaker. So then your jet stream becomes more wavy, and all that colder than normal, or in other words, I should say, all that colder air can move further to the south. And then again, your jet stream would be very wavy here. And for a positive phase here, it's not as wavy there with a positive phase there. But right now for the Arctic Oscillation, we're actually kind of leaning towards a negative phase for this upcoming winter as well. Here's the NAO region. And right now, this is kind of a 50-50 scenario here, but next week we're actually leaning towards a negative mode here um, for the NAO. What this is that a ridge could develop somewhere near Greenland, and what could happen there is that all the colder air could move further south into the eastern United States. With a positive phase, that's completely the opposite here. With a positive phase, it's usually warmer across the eastern United States, and all that cold air just sticks around the Greenland area as well. But for the NAO phase, for this upcoming winter, we're kind of leaning towards a negative phase, but there's also a possibility that we could see a neutral phase as well. The last teleconnection is your Pacific North American pattern or oscillation. And we're kind of leaning towards a positive PNA, but with that negative PDO in place, it's going to be kind of hard to come by there with his PNA. But if we are going to see a positive PNA, the ridge is probably going to be more focused across the desert southwest. But anyways here, typically during a positive PNA, usually there's a ridge across a good chunk of the western United States, and basically it could push that cold air further to the east. So basically for the eastern United States, it's below normal, it's colder than normal with a positive PNA. However, with a negative PNA, it's completely the opposite. You actually got colder than normal conditions across the west, and it's usually pretty warm across the east. But as of right now, we're kind of leaning towards maybe a neutral PNA, but at the same time here, we may be leaning a little bit towards a positive PNA for this upcoming winter as well. So what are my probabilities for the teleconnections for this upcoming winter? Well, for the NAO, we're kind of leaning towards a negative phase. There's a 65% chance we can see a negative NAO this upcoming winter, but there's also a 45% chance we can see a neutral phase as well, which typically with a neutral phase with any of these teleconnections, it's not really effective at all. It doesn't really change the pattern at all. Really, the other teleconnections kind of have control. Really, that's kind of what that means there. Um, but where but a positive NAO seems unlikely for this upcoming winter, which is good news for the eastern United States. Now for the AO, we're also got a decent chance for seeing a negative phase, which this is good for really anybody in the United States or if you want cold and snowy weather. There's about a 40% chance we could see a neutral phase, but a positive phase seems pretty unlikely. Now for the PNA, the chances are on the lower end of the scale there that we're going to see a negative phase, but there is a 45% chance that we could see a neutral phase. If for a positive phase, it's about a 55% chance. So it's almost 50-50 there for either we're going to see a neutral phase or a positive phase. We do have a little bit of low confidence with the PNA, but if there is going to be a positive PNA, I think it's going to be more focused across the southwestern United States there as well. Now for the PDO, we actually got better confidence on the PDO than kind of really anything else here with these teleconnections. There's an 85% chance that it's going to be negative, which is not good news for the eastern United States. Usually it keeps the cold air a little bit further around, kind of around the British Columbia and the Alaska region. But there is a 25% chance that we could see a neutral phase, but a positive phase seems pretty unlikely. That an EPO, really a 10% chance that we could see a negative phase, 25% for neutral, but there is a pretty good chance we're going to see a positive phase, so a 75% chance, which is not good for the eastern United States as well. So basically, for snow lovers for the eastern United States, you got pretty much these three teleconnections up here are working with you, but the bottom two, not so much there. But at some point here, one of these teleconnections kind of have to be a bigger factor than some of the other ones, or be stronger than the other ones, which honestly, PDO may be one of the stronger ones out of the five here. But we'll see what happens here. But it certainly could be an interesting winter here as well. Let's move on to the ENSO side of things here, and this is a typical La Nina pattern here. Usually you got a ridge of high pressure here off parts of the southwestern part of Alaska here, which we actually do have a bubble of above normal sea surface temperatures there as well, so that can act as a ridge. Your polar jet stream moves up into Alaska there, and that keeps things cooler than normal up there, and also pretty snowy up there in Alaska as well. That moves down to through British Columbia, which keeps things there cold and snowy for those regions. Then you got this Pacific jet stream there that kind of moves in. And then for the Northwest, it's a mess. And as we do know of, the Northwest does not need any more um, stormy weather, as they've seen way too much rain up there. So this is not really a good sign here for the Northwest and even for parts of British Columbia here if we're forecasting something like this for La Nina. This is stuff that they do not need right now. But you also do notice here that polar jet stream here comes down into the Ohio Valley and then it starts to turn more to the northeast when it gets into the mid-Atlantic region. It's usually dry and warm across the south. And it's also wetter than normal across the Ohio Valley and also the Tennessee Valley as well. So that's pretty much your typical La Nina pattern. But keep in mind, every La Nina is different here. There's no such thing as a La Nina being exactly the same. There are very similar La Ninas, but there's no such thing as a La Nina being, or a typical La Nina pattern being pretty much exactly the same. There's no such thing as that. So keep in mind that. So this is your weekly heat content here, and now this is in the subsurface here. I do believe here, maybe not actually. But anyways here, this kind of tells you here if it's really warming up or if it's really cooling down here. And you can see here for last winter here, it was cooling down last winter here. But if you see here this fall here, it's actually much stronger here, which could indicate that the moderate La Nina could be coming up very soon here. If it's going to be cooling down like that. And then again, that could increase your odds there of seeing possibly getting to a weak to moderate La Nina stage. And like I said earlier, with a moderate La Nina, usually it can strengthen the southeast ridge across the southeast there, and it can expand further to the northwest. And then you got a decent chunk in the United States that can see warmer than average conditions. As we kind of scroll down through here, if we could check out kind of in the past here, the last time we had a La Nina was literally last year. Last winter, which last winter it was actually a pretty good winter for a lot of us here. I know here in Kentucky it was a pretty good winter. February was pretty brutal. I'll definitely have to say that, especially for the Southern Plains. That was pretty brutal. Um, then you had 2017 to 2018, and then you had the back-to-back La Nina here. You had 2010 to 2011, then 2011 to 2012, and then you had 2008 to 2009. As well. And these winters here are okay. And one of these winters here, I believe it was 2010 to 2011, turned out to be Very warm for eastern United States here, below average snowfall, but that could be an outlier there as well. But that's some of your La Niñas back in the past here, and your most recent one is last winter. But then again, I'm not expecting this winter here to be the exact same way as last winter. Keep in mind that. Especially with the teleconnections being a little bit different, especially with the PDO situation, I do expect this winter here to be different than last winter. Then again, looks like I said, then we put another La Nina graphic there. Let's kind of move on to the models here, and you can see here, this is for sea surface temperatures here, and you can see here with these models here, all of them do indicate a little bit of a stronger La Nina. All these do here, possibly a moderate La Nina for some of these here. Some of these are stronger than others here. But you also do notice here, if you kind of look into the eastern and the northern Pacific here, you do have this area here of below average sea surface temperatures here for pretty much every single one here. And then again, that's something you don't really like to see here if you're a snow lover for the eastern United States. Something you don't really want to see there if you want snow. This certainly means here that these models here do agree on the negative PDO phase seems pretty likely here, and also a positive EPO as well. Now for the NAO side of things here, these models here are not really hinting on a whole lot of warmth around the Greenland region. However, if you move a little further to the southwest, closer to Canada though, there is some very warm sea surface temperatures from these models here as well. So that's where the ridge could set up here. And that's could certainly increase your chances that you may see a negative NAO here, but it could change the pattern a little bit for the northeast here. And this is your actual temperatures here, or your average temperatures here. And you can see all of them are pretty warm here. I think some of these here are a little bit of an overkill here with the warmth here. But you do see there, like I was talking about that positive EPO and that negative PDO, water cold air is usually locked up around the Alaska region and parts of northwestern Canada as well. It does give the opportunity for the western United States to get some cool downs as well. And you can see here, it pretty much shows it on pretty much every single model here. But I do think they're a little bit overkill with the warmth here. That may be due to that La Nina out there as well. But this cannot be ruled out as well. If the La Nina does turn out stronger than expected here, yeah, it could certainly be a blowtorch out here as well. So blowtorch does seem pretty possible here, especially with the support of the negative PDO, the positive EPO, and with that La Nina combo. Yeah, there is a chance it could be pretty warm for these United States for this winter. It's possible. So it cannot be ruled out. Now, this is your probabilities here. And this is what you'll see on CPC outlooks here. This is basically the same format here, but this is out of a model here. But really the better opportunity here I will let you guys pay attention to is this 60% line there. I think this is where we can likely see above average temperatures here out of this model here. Now for the broader yellow colors, that's about a 40 to 50% chance, which is kind of a low chance there when you kind of think about it there. So that's a low chance of seeing solid below average or above average temperatures there. But really shows the better opportunity to see above average temperatures looks to be across the several plains in the southeast as well, which I could roll with that there. Now this is your probabilities for precipitation here. Now I could definitely roll along with this as well. There's a chance of below average precipitation across the south. There's a chance of above normal precipitation across the northwest, even across parts of the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley as well, having that chance for above normal precipitation as well. And I think that's pretty accurate there, in my opinion. Now this is your probabilities for your sea surface temperatures here, and you can see here, pretty good chance here we're going to see below average temperatures here for the equatorial Pacific here. But you also do notice there's a good chance for, or at least a decent chance for below average temperatures, or sea surface temperatures, I should say, for parts of the northern and the eastern Pacific as well. And not too far to the west here, though. It's a bubble of warmer or a higher chance for warmer than normal sea surface temperatures as well. Check out the Atlantic, though. Pretty high chance out there as well. With these probabilities here, you can see a ridge happen here, possibly another one here as well. But also do notice there, around the Greenland area, a little bit on the neutral side there. So that's kind of interesting as well. All right, let's move on to the Cloud Prediction Center's forecast here. And this is actually their updated forecast here. This was just updated today, so this is very recent. And I do believe this is their last forecast here for the upcoming winter here. And really, it's pretty much the same here. Really, the areas I would pay attention to here, I think that 60 plus percent chance there will be the areas that probably had the better opportunity to see above normal temperatures. Uh, at least predicted from the Climate Prediction Center there. 50-55% chance. In reality, that's a low chance there when you think about it. And there's that probability of below average temperatures across really anywhere from the northern plains to the northwest as well. But I think they're a little bit too warm on this one here. But I do agree with that 70% though in the south there. I think those areas have a pretty good opportunity to see below or above average temperatures down there as well. If we kind of go back here, we'll go to precipitation, and this is also the same thing as well. Well, at least almost anyway. There's a chance of below average precipitation across a good chunk of the southeast, and also across parts anywhere from western Texas, all into parts of southern California. And you do have that probability of above average precipitation across the northwest. And here's another area for parts of the Great Lakes, back into parts of the Mississippi River Valley as well. And I can roll along with that as well. And why not check out December? And you can see here, they have nobody with the chance of below average temperatures here. Now, it will be updated again later this month here. You'll likely see that with my December forecast at the end of this month here. But like I said earlier there, with that potential for that positive P&A, they do have that area there, at least a 60 or 70% chance of seeing above normal temperatures across parts of the Four Corner states, parts of the Southern Plains, even for parts of the desert Southwest as well. And I can roll along with that as well, but we'll see here if they'll add a below average region on their next outlook here. Here's precipitation here, and dry across the south, wetter than normal across the northwest. It's also a low-end chance around the Great Lakes region. That actually may be associated with lake effect snow up there as well. Keep in mind, this is just precipitation here. It's not rain or snow, it's actually both. Really, any type of precipitation here. So there could be that opportunity to see some lake effect snow in the Great Lakes region for December, which, by the way, those sea surface temperatures up there around the Great Lakes region is very warm. So, and they also have a head start as well with lake effect snow. So, I think there's a decent chance we can see above average snowfall up there as well. All right, this is a map I haven't really shown before, but this is what this really is your average track here or your common theme for this winter here. And this blue line right here, this is where I think that's your average jet stream here. Let me get a different color out here. This blue line right here, I think this is your average track here for the jet stream here. You can see with that trough there across the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and the Northern Plains. And like I said before here, with those well above normal sea surface temperatures there just to the northeast and east in the New England states, a ridge of high pressure could certainly build up there as well with those winds there. It can make the jet stream here on this low track move back to the northwest here. So for the New England states here, you could either be on top of the low or be east of the low here. There may be a couple of times where the ridge of high pressure may be a little bit weaker, just weak enough that you guys may just be west side of the low. But I think the average track here will probably just to be either on top of you or just to the west of you as well. Otherwise, I think you guys will be pretty wet as well. Those sea surface temperatures there can certainly help with that moisture supply as well up there. And that wet region does extend down to parts of the Laurel Ohio Valley region as well. At the same time, though, for the Great Lakes region, this is a pretty good setup here for active lake effect snow. I can certainly see above average lake effect snow for this winter. And really across the south here, you got two different ridges of high pressure. You got that ridge of high pressure across the desert southwest, and you got another one for the southeast as well. And that desert southwest ridge could be associated with that positive P&A potential as well. But for areas for the desert southwest, I think you guys will likely stay mild and dry throughout this winter. And even for areas across parts of the southeast as well, could stay mild and dry. But keep in mind, guys, this is just an average here. Don't expect this to be going on throughout the entire winter here. This is just an average outlook here. I think what could be pretty common to see this upcoming winter here. So that's basically what all this stuff is. And then also you got Alberta Clipper systems coming out of Alberta as well that can move down to parts of the plains and also the Ohio Valley as well. But generally what this map is about is what could be the common theme here for this winter here. Don't expect this to be going on like this throughout the entire winter. That's just not going to happen. All right, let's check out my temperature forecast here, and a little bit different than the last one, in which I know you guys didn't really like the last one, so I understand. Some of you guys didn't like it, but I did back off the warmth though, at least for the Northeast. I did, but some areas of the Northeast could still experience slightly above average uh, temperatures because of those very warm sea surface temperatures, which could keep you guys slightly above average with temperatures up there. Really across the south here, above average temperature seems a pretty good bet, especially across the southeast, where we can have the southeast ridge. And I do believe that most of your cold air will probably stick around across parts of the Midwest and also the Great Lakes region as well. But you also do have that region of slight below average temperatures that do extend back into parts of the northwest as well. We can certainly see some low pressure systems arrive there, which could bring it cooler to normal conditions up there as well. Especially with that negative PDO and that positive EPO, you guys could certainly see some slight below average temperatures up there as well. Looking into precipitation here for the Northwest, again, you guys do not need any more rain, but unfortunately, I think you guys are going to see above average precipitation for this upcoming winter. So it's certainly going to be rough for you guys up there, especially for the cleanup process and also opening up those roads as well, especially for anybody that's watching from southern BC up there in Canada. This is certainly not really a good sign here. Now, you guys will likely have breaks in between systems here, of course, but during overall here, we could be looking at above average precipitation there. And that slightly above average region does extend into parts of Northern California. It also goes as far east as parts of the eastern part of the Rocky Mountains as well, into parts of Montana and also Wyoming as well. By the way, anybody that's not in any color, it's just average, just your typical average precipitation. That's what that means there. We do have another area slightly above average precipitation. This is really from parts of the really close to the Texas Arcana region up to parts of the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, and the Northeast as well. With that common low track here, let me take that off. With that common track here, we'll see these lows here arrive up in the Northeast there. You also have that subtropical jet in there as well. It'll dip down like this, and then it'll kind of go up something like that here. When they get to the Northeast there, they got a pretty decent moisture supply from the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic as well. So a lot of these systems here could have plenty of moisture with them as well. I don't think there won't be much of a moisture problem here unless a low does end up in the Great Lakes region. Moisture could be a little bit of an issue here, but if lows could track something like this here, at least close enough to the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean, yeah, it could pick up quite a bit of moisture from those areas as well. So I don't think there won't be a shortage with moisture from these systems here. Then you look a little further to the south here. Below average precipitation for Florida and even for areas across parts of the east coast of Georgia and also the Carolinas. You do have another area for parts of southern California, southern Arizona, southern New Mexico, and southwestern Texas as well with that below average um, precipitation. And then just to the north and east of it, slightly below average precipitation, not too bad at all there as well if you guys like drier weather down there. Alright, here's the snowfall forecast here, and across the northwest here, especially in those higher elevations, we'll likely see above average snowfall with those multiple systems there getting onshore to the northwest. It'll bring in plenty of moisture with it and plenty of cold air, so we can certainly see above average snowfall in those higher elevations there. In the lower elevations, you guys can still expect some slightly above average snowfall as well. I think everybody could get a decent amount of snow this winter here from the northwest. As we move a little further to the south, here across parts of California, Arizona, and New Mexico, could see below average snowfall. Then you have this slightly below average region, which includes parts of southern California, southern Nevada, southern Utah, southwestern Colorado. Moves into southern Texas, southern Louisiana, and then moves up along the east coast there. And then again with those above normal sea surface temperatures, and that's going to make things probably above average with temperatures there, or at least above freezing, I should say, with temperatures. And that kind of decreases your chances there for some snow from some systems there as well. And also, by the way, there, with analogs do support slightly below average snowfall for areas along the east coastline. From that very warm October that we have, it does support slightly below average snowfall for along the east coastline as well, which is what something I found very interesting as well here, and it kind of fits in pretty well as well for those above normal sea surface temperatures out there in the Atlantic Ocean as well. It's average across most of the central United States. Then we move into parts of the Great Lakes region. I do expect above average lake effect snow this year. We can certainly see with those above normal sea surface temperatures along in the lakes region. And with that very cold air in place, we can certainly see quite a bit of lake effect snow up there as well. And then in this light blue shade here, slightly above average snowfall, which goes back as far southwest as northern Arkansas and southern Missouri as well. It goes as far northeast as parts of northeastern New York as well. And then again, areas in between the slightly below average and the slightly above average, basically your average snowfall as well. And keep in mind here, something I forgot to mention here earlier, this does not mean that you guys are going to see no snow or no cold air. You guys will certainly see colder air and snow, no doubt about it. It's just compared to average. Like, for example, here for snowfall, if your average snowfall is 60 inches, well, with, say, below average snowfall, it could be 55 inches. That's still a lot of snow when you think about it. Now, if it were to be below average, it may be down to about 50 inches of snow. And then again, that's still a lot of snow. So, with these averages here, it doesn't take off much of your average here. Now, if you live across the south, though, that's a different story. Your average snowfall is very low here across the south here. So, it's just for areas in the northeast. It doesn't really make too much of a difference here for your snowfall forecast, and even for temperatures as well. For slightly above average temperatures, really it's a degree to 3 degrees above average. It's not doesn't make too big of a difference with temperatures as well. All right, let's check out my final forecast here. We'll go from west to east as usual. The northwest, stormy periods. In the higher elevations, we'll likely see mountain snow. Can be heavy at times, as well with a lot of these systems here, which will have plenty of moisture and cold air, especially when we have these sea surface temperatures warming back up again just south of that cold pool area. Uh, that could set up for a possibility for another atmospheric river event. So that's something we need to pay attention to as well here in the near future. Also forgot to mention here with the PDO here, something I saw here Just earlier this evening here, that for the negative PDO, that's the strongest PDO that we've seen since the 1950s. That really tells you something. So in about 70 years, uh, we haven't seen a negative PDO like that in 70 years. So that really tells you something here. Now I'm not completely sure what happened back in that time, but of course with warming temperatures here, with climate change, you know, it likely would be different today than it would be back then. So yeah, on that. Now we move a little further to the south here. We got flip-flop here. With that positive P&A, sometimes it could be a little bit stronger, so you guys could be warmer and a little bit drier. And then at times it would be weaker, which could lead to some storm systems to roll through those areas as well. So you could go from warmer and drier to maybe colder and a little bit stormier as well. And it kind of goes up and down. Kind of goes, or I should say, it kind of goes back and forth there as well. So that's what flip-flop means. Areas in the white here across eastern Idaho, the western half of Montana, northeastern Utah, and southwestern Montana. Mount snow can be heavy at times as well. Pretty self-explanatory. Areas in the light blue here, so really from eastern Montana, southeast into western Nebraska, northeast of Kansas, even getting into parts of western Missouri. Clippers, what I mean by clippers is Alberta clipper systems, these weak lows that come from Alberta. They move to the southeast and they can bring in some rain and snow showers as well. Not too big a deal. They don't really cause a whole lot of problems, but we can certainly see some clipper systems. Other than that, it's likely to be a little bit on the colder side as well. Across the south here, mild and dry with those two ridges there. You got that southeast ridge over here, and you got that desert southwest ridge as well, so that's going to keep you guys mostly mild and dry throughout the winter. Areas in the gray, not as bad as last winter. If you guys remember last winter, it was pretty rough for Texas and Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Now, since we have a back-to-back La Niña situation here, people are probably going to think here that we will see that again. We will not see that again, more than likely. However, there may be that opportunity we can see a couple systems to roll by some of these regions here. If we get to see a big trough that moves in across the western United States, if a low develops along that trough, yeah, there's a chance we could possibly see another decent storm system down there that could bring in some snow chances. So it's possible, but then again, it's not going to be as bad as last winter. Keep in mind that. Areas in the purple here in the northern plains in the Midwest, core of the cold. Basically, what that means there, that's probably we'll likely see the coldest part of the country here. In some periods there, could certainly see some Arctic air across those regions as well. As we move a little further to the southeast, a coldest snowy for parts of Missouri, Illinois, even into parts of Indiana. There's another section there for parts of eastern Michigan as well. Pretty self-explanatory there. You move a little further to the east here in this hot pink, or this, yeah, hot pink area. Active lake effect snow. If it was above average uh, sea surface temperatures there and cold air likely going to be in place, we could certainly see active lake effect snow. And it's already had a head start there, and it's likely going to continue throughout this winter as well. Then you move a little further south, and that red shade from parts of northeastern Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, up into the Ohio Valley in the interior northeast, the zone of uncertainty. What does that mean? Well, you can get a mix of snow, freezing rain, sleet, or a lot of rain. It's going to be one of those situations there where you have the chance of not only seeing a winter storm, but also seeing maybe an ice storm or a big flash flooding event. It really has to depend on with that southeast ridge there. If it's a little stronger there, it may be more like rain, but if it's a little bit weaker, it could be more like winter weather up there. So that's what really that means there for the zone of uncertainty. That's really what that means there. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty active low track there. That's going to be pretty popular up there as well. Even includes the areas in the pink here, really anywhere from the mountains of Tennessee and Kentucky all the way up into Maine. It's also going to be a popular low track as well, with some of these lows here kind of going over some of these same areas. Could be more wave, either mixed precipitation, which is sleet or freeze rain, could be snow, or generally rain here. I think a good chunk of these events here are going to be mainly rain because of these above average sea surface temperatures here. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty popular low track going for these regions here as well. The final region, parts of southeastern Arkansas, northeastern Louisiana, most of Mississippi, northern Alabama, southern Tennessee, northern Georgia, in the western Carolinas, even to far southern Virginia. Strong storms with a typical setup here with a negative PDO in the La Niña. They do have in common some active severe weather, especially across these regions here as well. Even areas a little further up north as well may have the increased potential to see some severe weather this upcoming winter as well. During a typical La Nina in the winter and the spring, severe weather is typically more active, especially with a negative PDO in place. You guys may be asking why, you know, last winter wasn't active for severe weather. Well, we did have that positive PDO, which kept the cold air a little further to the east here, and didn't have much time here for instability to kind of get up north here out of the Gulf of Mexico as well. And with this situation here, with the cold air being more further to the northwest, you have the southeast ridge that will likely develop here. It will likely supply with some moisture and instability as well. So we certainly have to watch for the potential for some strong to severe storms uh, for the winter across those areas as well. Even for areas a little further south into the mild dry region, and even for areas a little further west and north, could see that potential as well. Generally, this area here may need to watch for that potential for some severe weather this upcoming winter, especially getting close to spring as well. But anyways, guys, this RV guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this winter forecast. If you guys like this forecast, hit the like button. If you do like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you've got some questions about this, put the comment section down below. I answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.